Welcome, Ben Crypto here. I hope everyone is having a good weekend and a better weekend than the markets are doing. Bitcoin down 2%. We've been seeing a lot of this lately. Crypto is like a shaving cut you get that just slowly bleeds out. And then every once in a while you'll aggravate it and a big splurt of blood will come out. Then you'll patch it up temporarily, but the slow bleed out continues. It's almost just painful some days. Went over the stuff last week. Some semi-bearish stuff been coming out. Just that $120 million flowed out of the Bitcoin and Ethereum investment trust for Grayscale and other companies like this. That shows the mainstream institutional investors are a little skittish. On-chain data was mostly bearish yesterday and last week. A lot of leverage longs were liquidated, not surprising. A lot of new shorts were initiated, and that was kind of surprising. And then there's just a lot of leverage going on in the markets in general, which means since the funding rates are negative and the short positions are more in demand, it means the market could go down or up drastically, but it would be more likely it would go down since the funding rates are negative. But there was some bullish news last week. I went over this here. The Bitfinex whale is actually buying. The Bitfinex whale has been through a lot of cycles dating back to 2013. Is very accurate a lot of the time with his or her trades. Here's March. They sold at 45K. In January, they bought at 34K. Look at the chart here. These trades are just money. They bought literally right at the bottom. And then in March, they sold very near the top. The fact that the Binance whale was buying, that's very bullish. You could argue that they're just a savvier trader than most of the traders and the mainstream institutional traders, particularly in terms of a medium-term directional sense trade. And this came out today. This is kind of bearish. So the 7-day moving average of funds going into exchanges in Bitcoin is at a 3-month high. So this doesn't really mean one way or the other bullish bearish. It's usually bearish because people tend to view it as, okay, the whales are getting their money in a position where they could be ready to sell, or they're going to sell, or they just want to get everything ready. I mean, they also could be moving into altcoins. They could move into stable coins. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to sell, but it does make investors sort of skittish. We'll always have sort of dramatic comments like this. Inflows went up 438%. Whales getting ready to dump. Major crash coming. That's a little too dramatic, too conclusive. It does not necessarily mean that, but it tends to be viewed as more negative than positive. Brock Pierce coming out of the woodwork to also make some dramatic statements here. Says Bitcoin will crash or it will either crash and go to zero or explode and go to 1 million. It's a binary outcome. It's either going to go to 1 million or zero. It's one or the other. You shouldn't put everything there. Brock Pierce, he's kind of known for making these dramatic statements. Sometimes to keep your name in the media and the buzz, you need to make statements like this. It's definitely not going to zero for at least 50 years, in my opinion. Definitely not, 10 to 20 years. The whole new sector comes down 50 and 100 years, and maybe Bitcoin could go to zero, but it ain't going to zero in the next 10 to 20 years. And this came out. It's sort of an underreported story, which could be very bullish. South Korea to remove ban on ICOs, new regulations underway. So South Korea has a new president in who is very pro-crypto, which that's not really that big a deal. Most presidents are in this day and age. You have to stay trendy with the crypto crowd. But specifically the fact that he's considering legalizing ICOs, that's the interesting part. South Korea famously banned it in 2017. They were the second nation behind China to ban ICOs. And this is sort of what started the cascading effect of all the other nations banning or becoming anti ICOs. And part of the reason it was less ICOs and more just Korea in general. In 2017, it was just hoopla mania galore. They had the highest trading volumes of any country in the world. It was Korea #1, U.S. #2. Here's just a Forbes article on all the 2017 and the wild things that happened in South Korean crypto. They had their first ICO in May of that year. It sold about 13 million. That led to a bunch of other ICOs. And then the kimchi premium went up later in the year. That meant that prices to buy Bitcoin and other coins is 30 to 50% higher in Korea than anywhere else, just due to the amount of trading and supply and demand there. A lot of people were taking advantage of that. Arbitration sort of whatever they could kind of trade they could make there. Major kind of like Samsung got into it. That's a Korean company. Kakao Messenger, they got into it. In South Korea, they just foreign ICOs. They banned them. A large part of it was ICOs kind of just had a negative reputation back then. So studies came out 80% of ICOs in 2017 were scams. Now it's a different day and age. There's much more regulation. There's more self-governing. It wasn't really like that in 2017. So even though Korea, they had the highest trading volumes, for a while, they had the most number of ICOs, the most fundraising there. I think the regulation, it kind of took it a little bit too far with just the ICOs back then because the culture was different. They were viewed very negatively. But now, I mean, this is 2020. Bitcoin volumes, trading volumes by country, the top 50 countries. Korea is not even on the list here. U.S. is number one. Korea not in the top 50. So they went from number one in 2017 to not in the top 50 currently. So it's obviously regulation's good there. It's more a question of can this pro regulation stimulate the Korean base again, like they were stimulated in 2017. Who knows? It'd take a while, just since crypto is very absent from this country. But they do have the top two exchanges in the Asia region, BitHum and Upbit. So the infrastructure is there, the potential is there. We shall see. Moving on, Twitter. This came out a couple days ago. So Binance, they were one of the investment companies that joined in the investment consortium. Binance CZ put in 500 million. Sequoia Capital, mainstream VC fund, they put in 800 million. Fidelity put in 316 million. Andreessen Horowitz put in 400 million. It's a lot of U.S. tech and U.S. crypto getting in on it. It was viewed very positively for Binance. This was the day of the carnage, Thursday, I believe. Binance was actually up on the day, 1%. So people liked that. This came out today. Job interest in Twitter has skyrocketed more than 250% since Elon Musk took over. So the company Glassdoor, the job posting company, they noticed a 250% increase in clicks on job postings April 24th to 23rd, right after Elon took over. It doesn't really surprise me too much. I mean, no offense to this guy here. He did seem like he was a good CEO for the 6 months he was there, but young people want to work at the company that has the trendy executive, the trendy CEO that everyone's talking about, at their Thanksgiving dinner table, their family's talking about. That's where people want to work, and that's Elon Musk is the buzzworthy guy. And 59% of Americans approve of the takeover. It's really even higher than that, honestly. Usually, when a big company or a big person sort of takes over a company, there's always some people are going to be viewing it negatively. There's always some, negative speculation initially. So 59% is about the highest it can possibly be. So people are pro the Elon Musk takeover. Moving on, U.S. adds Blender.io mixing service to South Korean sanction list. Blender.io, so they processed 20 million of the 600 million that was stolen in the Ronin Axie Infinity hack. So what's interesting about this article is that Tornado Cash is still going strong. Tornado Cash processed 65 million of the money from the Ronin hack. Blender more than Blender is only 20 million, but Tornado Cash, they're still going strong. Most people don't know they do have a token, Tornado Cash. Here it is. They're ranked about number 500 in terms of market cap, so like medium-sized, small to medium-sized token. They've surprisingly quietly performed great the last month. They're up 24% in the 30 days. That's vastly outperforming Bitcoin and the rest of the market. Bitcoin's down around 20% there. So I guess it's just a case of the only bad publicity is no publicity. Still, it might be kind of a risky long-term trade. You never know when these things could get shut down. But for now, they're quietly performing well. Robinhood is partnering with Grayscale to add Grayscale's Bitcoin and Ethereum investment trust products to Robinhood. So this is interesting. Kind of indicates Robinhood is sort of shifting their strategy away from targeting just the retail traders and more so targeting the institutional traders because as we covered last week, they're launching the wallets for about half their coins, 2 million beta test users. They can now have not a self-custody wallet. It's a wallet that Robinhood has the custody over, which that is clearly catering to the institutional investor. Retail traders like running the wallets and storing their passkeys. And that's what makes crypto crypto. But institutional investors who are just in it for the investment, the long-term hold, they do not want to have to learn passphrase and wallets and sending your coins there and not making a mistake and upgrades. So they're clearly kind of also catering to the institutional investor here. It's interesting. We'll have to see how that plays out. That's it for today. Hope everyone enjoyed the show. I will be back with a new episode tomorrow. Ben Crypto signing out. Later.